Spoilers for Elbath. However, in chapter 1175, it is revealed that Loki is the user of the Dragon Fruit mythical model Nidhogg, making him the first Dragon Fruit user whose fruit actually turns him into what is regarded as a traditional dragon, meaning a draconic creature with 4 limbs and a set of wings. No other Dragon Fruit in the series does that for their user. We have a bunch of drakes, which are draconic creatures that are just 4-limbed creatures. We have a wyvern in King, who is a creature that is draconic, that just has a set of wings and a set of limbs, and then that's about it. But Loki is the real deal. He is a real dragon. However, he is a mythical dragon. So we are still lacking a normal dragon fruit that turns its user into a traditional dragon. With that being said, I do think in One Piece we have that fruit user around, but they haven't been revealed yet. And we have made a video about this in the past, as well as several videos about Loki being a actual dragon. And now there is a playlist about that on the channel. However, I do think Monkey D. Dragon, the son of Monkey D. Garp and the father of Monkey D. Luffy, is the user of the normal dragon fruit. And the reason why I think that is because it's very odd that he has some sort of relationship to Vegapunk, and that relationship has never been explained. I think he is the origin point for the various dragons that we see on Punk Hazard, because we do know that Vegapunk is very good at extracting lineage factors from Devil Fruit users. And it could be the case, based on what we've heard about people like Ryuma, that dragons have been hunted to extinction as opposed to their environments being taken up by humans or any other factor, because as we find out in Punk Hazard, dragons can live in any condition, which makes them very much like Lunarians, and we've covered that before on the channel, as well as the fact of Dragon possibly being a dragon fruit user. So I do think the reason why we have dragons on Punk Hazard is because of Monkey D. Dragon himself and Vegapunk extracting the lineage factor from his Devil Fruit and creating the creatures that we see in the series. Now, with that being said too, I do think that Monkey D. Dragon is a dragon simply because the iconography around the Revolutionary Army is very, very dragon based. And an interesting thing comes up in chapter 1175 that I bring up a lot in the video about that chapter. And that is, Loki has ears as a dragon, which is a very interesting thing because that doesn't occur often in the series, because dragon number 13, the big red dragon, and dragon 21, the small green dragon on Punk Hazard, don't have ears. However, the Jolly Roger of the Revolutionary Army depicts a dragon head with ears. So I don't know what that means in the whole taxonomy of dragons, but I do believe that once Monkey D. Dragon turns into a dragon, he most likely has ears. Also, another point to Monkey D. Dragon being a dragon is that the ship that we see Monkey D. Dragon on, called the Wind Grandma. Now, the Wind Grandma is a ship with a figurehead that looks like a dragon, and it is a black dragon with a very similar head to the dragon that we see in Monsters. So I don't know what that's about. However, the name of the ship does bring up a very interesting point that people have been talking about for years. Is Dragon a Wind Logia? Because the name seems kind of telling. I still don't think so. And the reason why I don't think so is simply because it is implied that Dragon taught Sabo the Dragon Claw Fist martial art. The reason why a martial art is a very important sticking point here is because Logias don't practice martial arts. Logias simply overwhelm their opponents with their abilities. You rarely ever see a Logia with any sort of practice fighting style. Sabo literally is the only one, and that's because he had the fighting style before he had the Logia type Devil Fruit known as the Flame Fruit. You never see a Logia with a actual comprehensive fighting style that is apart from their Logia abilities. They may be good weapons users like Eniru, or they may be adept at using other sort of weaponry like Crocodile, but it's never like a full-fledged martial art or a fighting style that is fully apart from their Logia abilities. It just doesn't happen. It could happen in the future, but it hasn't happened so far. Sabo is literally the only one, and there is a very reasonable excuse for that. So I say that to say, Dragon most likely has to rely on a martial art to make his fruit worthwhile, which is why he is a Zoan fruit user. Now, the reason for there being a storm in Logtown when he arrived could be another effect of his devil fruit, or just something he's able to do as a dragon, because I could believe that dragons can just normally influence the weather by pushing away storm clouds with the beats of their wings. I could see that being the case. And we kind of get a hint to dragons being storm related thanks to the powers of Loki, of which we see in chapter 1174 and the following chapter 1175. Even though that seems to be a mythical ability associated with Loki, I could see that being a capability that a normal dragon would be able to do. Meaning I think they could actually physically influence the weather by pushing clouds towards a particular area with their wings. Another interesting point I would like to just bring up is that it is funny that every time we've seen a dragon, they've been associated with some sort of weather change, even if they're not the one doing it. So Logtown is a possibility, but then in Punk Hazard, we're in a location that was affected by two Logias fighting, in which the weather has changed permanently. But that is when we're introduced to dragons for the first time in the series, even though they aren't naturally occurring dragons. And now with Loki being a natural occurring dragon in a way, and being the first dragon fruit user who is actually a dragon, he too now has an ability to affect the weather. So I just find that quite interesting. So with that being said, if you are enjoying the video so far, please give me a like. And if you want to see more content like this, hit the subscribe button followed by that bell so you never miss a video. And to top things all off, if you are so inclined to do so, could you please hit that hype button, because it does help somehow. With that being said, give me your thoughts and tell your friends about Polypede Works.